Good morning, everybody. We are here at the SCG Regionals here at El Mall Santa Fe, hosted by the Wasteland Gaming. And joining me in the booth is
Nathan Satterfield.
And I am Brad Van Slyke, and we are getting started at round one of, I believe, a 9-round tournament.
We have upwards of 250 players today. Great turnout. Wonderful day for Standard Magic the Gathering. We have a concurrent Pro Tour event going on, so lots of very interesting new tech to talk about. But we're going to get right into it. First off, player staple. We've seen him many times on stream. Jeb Boone, running old standby mono red.
Yeah. Now, he's informed us that this list is a little bit different than the one we saw earlier this week, probably keeping some secret tech hidden for this event. And playing against him is Wasteland's very own Justin Gregory, playing Bant Heroic.
Yep, that's right. I had a chance to speak with Jeb before the tournament, and he told me he was reverting back to a mono red build that's not unlike the old 20-20-20. Just 20 burn spells, 20 good solid creatures, and 20 mountains.
True red deck wins.
Absolutely. Players shuffling up, drawing their opening hands. Looks like Jeb has won the die roll. I think he's going to keep his 7. See if Justin Gregory will. Nope, he's going to mold to 6. So the Bant Heroic deck is fairly new. It is your typical blue-white Heroic deck. You have cards like Favored Hoplite, Battle-Wise Hoplite, cards that get the Heroic triggers from spells such as Ordeal of Thassa to draw cards.
Yeah, and Ordeal of Heliod is a good one for the life gain.
Absolutely.
I believe the big thing that's kind of brought the Heroic deck into the Bant horizon is definitely the Jermoka command.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The ability to interact with your opponent using all modes, actually, on this card are very, very good. Sacrificing Enchantment becoming much more relevant. Decks like Turbo Fog running around.
We've seen some demonic
network.
Oh, and some demonic packs. Yeah,
exactly. Good point.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the ability for it to target 2 of your own creatures separately and trigger 2 different heroic things there is
getting
excellent.
that fight, getting that +1/+1 counter, and with the strong influx of red deck wins, that fogging of only instants and sorceries has become quite relevant.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a glare here. We do apologize for that. I believe this is a Zergo Bell Striker on turn 1 for Jeb Boone. Going to attack, drop Justin to 18. Seeker of the Way is Justin's turn to play. He's going to take 2 off of the Eidolon trigger, go to 16. That is hopefully going to gain him a good amount of life. Oh, no, it's just going to meet its demise immediately from a Wild Slash, and then an attack for 6 more damage. So Jeb takes 2 off the trigger, and then puts Justin to 10. Oh, excuse me. He takes 2 triggers because he's also cast Monastery Swift Spear. A follow-up Seeker of the Way. Justin looking to stick a creature. We'll see what Jeb elects to do. I see lots of different burn spells in his hand. Stoke the Flames. Lightning Strike as well. JG really needs to just stick a creature because he's also got a copy of Jermoka's Command in his hand, which is a very good one in this matchup. It can negate a burn spell effectively by preventing all the damage it would deal. It also can make a creature fight, which, coupled with the Prowess trigger on Seeker of the Way, can gain him some life.
Yep. Looks like we're going to see a Lightning Strike here from Jeb, stopped by a God's Willing.
Yep, God's Willing giving protection from red, allowing Justin to scry.
It's going to be 2 damage to each of the players.
Yep, they're
from
both going to get the Eidolon trigger. 14 to 8. Looks like Jermoka's Command gonna fight. We'll see what the life total change is after that. Not quite sure all of the ins and outs of what went on there. what modes were chosen. Does not look like +1/+1 counter was one of the modes. I think it was sacrifice an enchantment and make 2 creatures fight.
Yeah, sacrificing enchantment hits that Eidolon. I believe it's an enchantment creature.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
He'll still take the damage from casting it,
correct.
because that is a trigger.
He's also taking 1 off of tapping Mana Confluence.
And looks like
he's going to gain 6 more off of the fight and the attack, looks like. And they're both 11, I believe. Looks like an attack with Zurgo. Drop him back down to 9.
A lot of people are trying to find an interesting sweet spot for Zurgo in their red decks. Do they run 3 copies? Do they run 4? You know, as a 1-drop and a 2-drop for dashing, you want him early and you want to see him often, but that legend rule is very relevant text.
Absolutely.
It looks like we're going to have another Dromoka's Command here.
Yeah, so Justin going to take 1 down to 8. +1/+1 counter. Prowess trigger and fight should gain him enough life to go back up to 12. Wild Slash in response. And a Johnny's Presence. So many, many triggers here. He's going to gain lots and lots of life. So the fight's going to happen. +6, I believe.
Yeah, it should be 2 prowess triggers plus the counter.
Yes, so he's going to gain 7 life, right? 2 spells, 2 prowess triggers, and the +1 off of the Ajani and the +1. No, so 6. It is 6. So he'll gain, should be 12 more life. Back up to 20. An attack from Monastery Swift Spirit on 19. Treasure Cruise, Prowess Trigger, going to draw Justin 3 more cards. Very powerful. Those Dromoka's commands have done so much work in this game. Yeah. We've seen that it is definitely worth the splash.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fight we actually saw sacrifice with the Eidolon being the only legal target. I think Dromoka's Command is a 2-drop instant. A lot of the other commands are 3, sometimes more. The 2 sweet spot for the instants here in the Bant heroic deck is very nice. As we've seen, you really only need to stick 1 relevant creature, and you can protect it very well. We saw God's Willing to give it protection from red. We saw it at Johnny's Presence to give it indestructible. And all these things are running double duty with the prowess or with heroic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a real fan of the interaction where you're targeting your heroic creatures, and if you have some of your prowess dudes out, you're just getting value for days. So if you got the Monastery Mentor out, you're making dudes, you're pumping your dudes, while you're also directly interacting with your heroic guys.
Yeah, Stoke the Flames there, going to give prowess to the Monastery Swift Spear and take out that Seeker of the Way. No more life gain for JG. Looks like a copy of Monastery Mentor.
Yeah.
Very powerful card.
This card has been a house since the day it came out.
Legacy All-Star even. Playable in Eternal formats. Here comes another copy of Stoke the Flames. Gonna cast Dromoka's Command. That's gonna be the game. Jeb Boone tired of playing this. It knows that he will not be able to fight through all of that life gain and the subsequent tokens from the prowess trigger on Monastery Mentor.
I mean, completely negating the instants and sorceries in Jeb's deck is already so strong, and then having that modular ability, or just, put the counter on whatever mode you want. I mean, he could have just removed the Swift Spear right there. There's so many lines of play, and all of them are very good.
So the cards that I'm looking to see come in here on JG's side of the board, probably just a couple comfort changes. You just want to take out some of the cards that you don't feel super happy about and bring in. Let's see what he's looking at here. Can't quite tell what he was shuffling up there from his sideboard. Jeb Boone going to keep in all the removal spells, things like Searing Blood, very, very powerful. Eidolon, not a big one. Looks like he's taking a couple copies of Eidolon and Lightning Berserker out. He's bringing in Roasts. I think I saw Chandra, Pyromaster, also coming in.
Now, it's a little bit hard to trigger in Jeb's deck, but the Ferocious ability on Wild Slash is actually super relevant in this matchup.
Absolutely.
The Ferocious on Wild Slash is that damage can't be prevented this turn. And that will allow him to just go through the commands, just ignoring that mode, which we saw was used quite often.
I think if he has access to a Goblin Rabblemaster, that would be the only way to reliably trigger the Ferocious.
Yeah, without throwing a lot of spells for prowess.
Yeah, if he's got enough mana to cast that many spells, he's probably not in a good position. But it's still viable play.
Potentially, Lightning Berserker has the fire breathing. Crank it up.
Another good point. I think he's taking those out in tandem because realistically, the 2 damage, not going to do a whole lot. Maybe a reasonable spot to have it in because most of Justin's creatures are 2/2s at the base. So if he gets aggressive with trying to grow them, he can respond with a Wild Slash and still have mana open.
And if he taps out for maybe a God's Willing to save one guy, he can, in response to the prowess trigger, take out another.
Absolutely. Need to be able to play around and navigate those Dromoka's commands because they have been backbreaking. We'll see how many JG has access to. If he's got more, you have to know that they're coming in. Most of the sideboard cards for Bant Heroic looking like Stratus Walk and Aqueous Form, things to get your creature through a board stall.
Yeah, the mono red deck can shore up the ground game a little bit, but it's the only interaction it has against any type of flyer is with burn spells.
Absolutely.
Which we've seen with the Ajani's Presence and the God's Willing. It's pretty easy to get around those.
Yeah. Most of the time, Jeb's creatures are going to be turning sideways and heading into the red zone in order to race and deal damage. Not a whole lot of blocking going on. Probably doesn't need those copies of Aqueous Form or Stratus Walk. We'll see how they do choose to sideboard. Yeah, JG's also bringing in copies of Ordeal of Heliod. I think he's also got access to Encase in Ice, which is a spicy one.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've gotten word that Jeb is siding in his Roasts and his Heel Cutters.
Yep. Okay, so Heel Cutter's a nice one. If Justin decides to get defensive and leave one big creature back, and, if it's a Seeker of the Way, he wants to trigger lifelink and then block and gain a bunch of life. But unfortunately, Heel Cutter says
Target creature can't block this turn.
That's not going to happen.
Even if he's got a bunch of dudes up and he wants to trade with not the lifelinker. No, I like that tech a lot.
Once again, we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in or watching the replay of our Star City Regionals event hosted by the Wasteland Gaming. Players here opening their hands of 7. Going to see if they like what they've got.
Now, we're running off the backs of day 1 of the Pro Tour. Are you expecting a lot of the decks that we saw do well yesterday to show up here?
I don't know if the card availability is as fluid as it typically is when we see Pro Tours happen. A lot of the deck techs yesterday that I watched did not have sideboards. So it makes it very difficult for people to get a complete list and a complete game plan going into a big tournament like this. So we see going back to our game.
Yep. Both players kept their opening 7.
Yep, they did keep. Laganaban Trailblazer, the start for Justin Gregory.
That's the 0-4.
0-4 with Heroic. And we have an Eidolon here. So once again, we apologize for the glare. We will try to get that cleared up if we can.
Yeah, that 0-4 is going to block pretty much everything in Jeb's deck from now through forever, especially if it starts getting counters.
A second copy added to the board. Trigger. It's going to deal 2 damage to Justin. He played a Temple of Enlightenment and kept on top. 3rd land for Jeb. A bevy of options for him at this point.
Yeah, that entire deck runs at 4 mana at the most. Things like Heel Cutter, if you're hard casting it for some reason, Chandra Pyromancer at the top of your curve.
We'll see what he does choose to do. He's got a pair of veritable yoke docks standing in his way. Those are perfect targets to begin the game for Justin. If he can start to pants those up, it's going to take a lot of burn spells to destroy those guys. Exquisite Firecraft here, going to take one of them out. A trigger and a block. So both players here.
Firecraft, Stoke the Flames are the only burn spells in his deck that can remove them immediately. Although he did say he was bringing in Roasts.
Yeah, copies of Roast. Yeah. Specifically, possibly for that card.
And there's a Seeker.
Second Temple and Seeker of the Way.
Now, this is a rare opportunity for Jeb. The shields are down for Justin. If he wants to stop that lifelink, he can do so right away.
All right, so
he's going to
dashed Heel Cutter, going to make sure that Lagana Band cannot block, getting in for 5.
Yeah, you can't afford to block the Swift Spear right there. He's got a red mana up. So many cards. Wild Slash could just double up some damage there easy. We're going to see an Ordeal of Thassa on the tribe. And cracking a Flooded Plains.
Looking for a second copy of Basic Plains.
Even a single white mana threatens so much in the Bant Heroic deck.
Taking, oh my. So I'm going to take another 2, go down to 6 off of the fetch and 2 Eidolon triggers. That is going to give him... is going to give it 4 counters, so both of those will fall off. He will gain 10 life
and draw 2
cards. He's also going to gain 4 more from 2 prowess triggers. That's going to take him right back up to 20 life. An unbelievable swing here.
Yeah, 4-8.
Also just casually dealing 8 damage, I believe, to Jeb.
Looks like we have a Heel Cutter again coming down.
Dash once again, 5 more damage. This one looks to be about sewn up. It's going to be really hard for Jeb to come back from that much life gain. Also, we neglected to mention the least impressive part of that whole sequence, that he drew 2 more cards. Yeah. Another Seeker of the Way, another trigger.
Yeah, gaining that 10 life has basically negated everything that Eidolon has done this entire game.
Jeb Boone drawing a few too many lands, we see. 6 in play is not exactly what he wanted.
He's going to roast here?
Yep, 1 copy of Roast, and then once again casting this time and not dashed. A Heel Cutter. Going on defense.
Which is not a mode the red deck ever wants to be in.
1 trigger of Eidolon. Being a bit of a double-edged sword this game, and then a Hero of Iroas, the follow-up for JG. Too many lands for Jeb Boone. There's the match. We're going to have a quick transition, and we're going to go over to our second match.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to make sure we put this on the wait screen temporarily while we switch the camera over. And we will be right back with our backup feature match.
Thank you again.
Okay, we're back with our second match. We apologize for the askew nature of the camera angle here, but we've got a matchup of Blue-Green Company and Mono Red.
Blue-Green Company is a very interesting deck. It plays, most of it is almost entirely very similar to the Mono Blue Devotion list that's been going around, but I believe it splashes green, as mentioned, for Collected Company, allowing you to basically shoot that Devotion up. Collected Company says grab creatures, so I believe you can actually grab Thos off of it.
That is correct.
Because it's CMC.
It does meet the requirements.
Because she is a creature card, she would only stop being a creature when she's on the battlefield.
Just getting everything set up here for you guys.
Tidebringer filling a very needed spot of a 2-drop in the Mono Blue list. With the loss of Frostburn Weird, it was desperately needing a double blue at 2.
Tidebinder Mage was also a wonderful staple for the deck. It was, ironically, very good in this situation, locking down red and green creatures. It would be probably one of the best cards for the deck if it were available to the list now.
No, absolutely agree. So for AJ, we have 3 Goblin Tokens, 2 Foundry Street Denzians, and a Phoenix. It's not...
Looks like a Scry trigger from Thassa goes to the bottom.
It's the Fate Reforged Phoenix, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. Which has the Ferocious trigger. Flying haste, has to attack every turn, and has Ferocious at the beginning of your combat step. You can pay a single red to bring it back from the yard.
Yes, that's correct. That not terribly difficult to achieve in conjunction with Foundry Street Denizen and things like Hordling Outburst.
Absolutely, which is probably what we saw before we tuned in.
Yeah.
Looking at the board state.
So, let's see, we've got some updated life totals here now. And it looks like Charles is at 9 life and AJ is at 12. So, it's got an interesting little race going on right now. Here we go. We've seen some more stuff. 9 to 7 after the attack with Thassa.
Yep. Probably making herself unblockable.
Indeed.
And crashing. Yeah. Unblockable 5 damage a turn clock. At minimum. Very good. He's going to flash in another Merfolk.
There's a Harbinger of the Tides with Flash, returning a tapped creature to its owner's hand, returning the Phoenix. Looks like a Wild Slash before blocks, making life a little more difficult for Charles. Going to take, looks 3 here. Yeah, we do have life totals at 6 to 7, so that's confirmation.
And it wasn't enough. He's got enough mana up, I believe.
Yep, he just needs to make 2 of them unblockable. Thassa is still turned on for Devotion, so it can attack itself. There we go. So Charles is going to take down this match 2 games to 0.
Yeah. Does Mono Red have an answer to a creature Thassa? Indestructible 5/5? Burn spells aren't going to cut it.
You just have to keep the rest of the team under wraps, and if there become too many pips on the table, too many Devotion symbols, blue mana cost symbols on the table, you're in real trouble.
Yeah.
The deck has a lot of trouble with Master of Waves as well.
Yeah, protection from red.
Fighting through that
rough.
specifically has historically been very bad for red decks. You historically were able to sort of fight around it by getting early damage in, and by the time the board became impassable for you, you would kill them with Fanatic of Magus.
Which was the Devotion red, deals damage to them equal to your Devotion to red.
4/2 for 4 mana.
Blast
Not
them
going to
and
matter
finish them
here,
out.
though. We're going to go ahead and sign off from round 1. Thank you guys once again. This is Nathan Satterfield.
And Brad Vince Lake.